thing is thirsty these days. Hey Speedy's Garage gang, welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. If you're a channel member, you saw last week we worked on the fuel system in Go Man Go and should have that up to snuff. Ran into a couple of little weird intricacies that we got sorted out, but I ran out of time going for a test drive to confirm that we're now back to where we need to be with that 2.7 liter supercharger making 20 pounds of boost. Going for the test drive today, so that's what we're gonna check out. I'm gonna run a data log, make sure everything is good to go. If everything works like my math suggests, then I will have picked up around 50% on the fuel system overhead. So we're gonna see what that looks like. I'm about to put the E85 back in the tank and go run that rip and get a data log. We're gonna make a quick trip to Mexico. If you don't have any of these jugs, I highly recommend them. They make putting fuel in the tank super easy if you're gonna run something special like race fuel or something at the track. See how quick it pours. And I learned you just have to crack this little nozzle right here just a little bit to let it vent. If you open it too much, it'll drip. But if you just crack it open, as you can see, it pours pretty quick. Makes things simple. Well, the car's been sitting for several weeks. I've never let it sit that long before. It's probably not necessary, but I'm going to cycle the engine over a few times without letting it start, just so I can make sure it's got oil pressure. I don't want to take a chance on it being, you know, not having enough oil up there because it's been sitting for so long. And you can actually just push the accelerator pedal to the floor and then hit the start button, and it should just spin over and never start. Okay, that's probably enough. You have to hold the brake down, obviously, just like you normally would, but do that, push the accelerator pedal to the floor, and it'll crank over, and we got some oil pressure, so that should be good to go. Now we're gonna fire her up. And by the way, it's been setting for a while. It's got E85 in the tank, and it's 50 degrees out, so it's cold, and you saw it fired right up, no trouble. That's because Mike from OST Dyno helped me dial in that cold start on E85. It doesn't have to be coughing and sparking and bubbling and popping and all kind of stuff on E85. It fired right up, lickety split. And after I make changes to a car like this, I don't go out and just hammer on it. I'm gonna take a nice easy drive at first. I'm going to stop and put some more E85 in the tank. Keep an eye on the data log. Commanded fuel pressure and actual fuel pressure are lining up, so nothing looks any different than what I've seen before. Everything's looking pretty good there, so that's a good sign. One thing I am going to mention is that now that it's got 3 pumps in the tank, I mean it was already drawing a lot of fuel with just 2. But now that I've got 3 pumps pulling fuel at wide open throttle, it's going to be moving some volume. So I am definitely not going to be racing it below half a tank anymore, or running it hard. I shouldn't even say racing. I'm not going to run it hard below half a tank. That's probably going to be asking for trouble with it having 3 pumps in the tank. And it's, you know, they sit right on the bottom. I mean, they're probably a 1/4 of an inch. You know, when I was putting them in, I could feel the pump socks, you know, dragging on the bottom. So they are just right there. But when you have a powerful car like this and you mash on the gas, the fuel can slosh back from the G-forces and move away from one of those pumps. So now that I've got 3 in there, they're going to be pulling a whole lot of volume at wide open throttle, so I don't want to take any chances there. With it sitting for so long, I was a little worried, especially with it being wintertime, cooler out. I was a little worried the tires would flat spot, especially the Nitto 555R drag radials in the back, but it feels pretty smooth. If they had any flat spots in them, I didn't really notice. And now it's driving smooth. I'm curious, you guys have to store your cars for the winter. Do y'all have to worry about that at all? Do you do anything to prevent it? Put it on jack stands or some kind of, maybe they make a little curve thing that the tires can roll into to keep the shape. Do y'all do anything like that? Leave me a message or comment down below and let me know. I don't have to deal with that, thankfully. I don't know how y'all do it. I've been, this is about 7 weeks without driving the car, and it was rough. I was really starting to miss it, and it feels good to be back behind the wheel. What a shame, you know, that this is the last year, 2023, supposedly. Now, Dodge does some weird stuff. They'll say, never going to do it again, won't make it again, you know, last chance to get the thing, and then a year later they do it again. Look at the Durango Hellcat. Look at the Demon. Now I know a lot of people say, well, it's a Demon and a Red Eye is not a Demon, but it's the same powertrain, you know. So they do some stuff sometimes like that that's a little strange. Go back to 2008, they came out with the Hemi Orange SRT8 Challenger, and it was going to be the only year for Hemi Orange and all that. And then in 2009 they had Hemi Orange again. So I'm hoping maybe something happens and they're able to keep making these, because they are a really great car. A lot of people give them a hard time because they haven't been updated in a while, but honestly, the small tweaks they've made, I love it. I mean, I wouldn't really change much. I like the size of the car. It makes so much power, they almost defy physics. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they're super easy to modify. So it's a really, really good platform in my opinion. If they somehow came up with some kind of unobtainium, something we don't know about today, technology that could make them a little bit lighter, you know, 400 or 500 pounds lighter, that would be great. But not at the, not sacrificing the styling or the comfort. I mean, I can hop in this thing and drive it across the country and just feel like I'm in a lazy boy. So I love these cars. Again, such a shame they're going away. All right, we are in Mexico. Got my passport stamped. I'll give a little quick check here. See how we're looking. A little bit cool out. Tires are spinning around a little bit. Makes things a little interesting. Yeah, like, we'll have to check the data log and see how we did. Felt pretty good though. Well, I took just a quick peek at the data log, and it appears our problem is now solved. Finally, man, what a saga. So I'll show you this. I'll try to put a screenshot of it here. Maybe I'll show you when I get back to the shop. But basically, hovered around 85% fuel pump duty cycle, where before it was maxing out. So that's good. And we're maintaining 80 psi fuel pressure on a command of 80 psi. So actual fuel pressure in the log is actually 80.3, even way up in the RPM range, and right around 20 pounds of boost, between 1950 and 2,000 milligrams of air charge. So all very good news. I am glad that is finally over. What a saga. So heading back to the shop, pretty happy everything is sorted out. I've been thinking about that 7th car that Dodge is supposedly going to come out with, and I'm still going to say, if it's not 1,000 horsepower, it's not a success in my opinion. Too many of us enthusiasts have already figured out how to modify these cars to make way more than 900. You know, when Dodge, when they release, excuse me, those horsepower numbers, they're going to be at the crank. So it'd be like with the engine out of the car, and you lose, let's say, around 15-ish% to the rear wheel. Well, there's a lot of Hellcats out there running around now that are 900, 950, 1,000, 1,100 horsepower, and it doesn't take a lot of money to do it. They've been around a while. They've got a really good aftermarket following, really good aftermarket support, some great tuners out there. You guys know I really like to work with Mike from OST, but you know, there's some other guys out there that are pretty good too. You got Josh from HHP. You've got John Mord from Mord Performance. He's kind of new, and I know him pretty well. He and I talk quite a bit. He's kind of coming on the scene. He's got a Red Eye that's running in the 8s, so you know, pretty easy to modify these cars and make them quite powerful. This one's making, you know, 20 pounds of boost now out of a 2.7 liter Red Eye Supercharger, 285 pulley, injectors in a tune basically, and Red Eye engine, I should say that too. The original engine did fail, so it's got a Red Eye Demon motor in it, which was a pretty nice upgrade. But if you've got a Red Eye or something, I don't know that this 7th car is going to be all that in a bag of chips from a performance perspective. Now maybe they find a trick way to do a launch control thing and get really sophisticated with the programming in it to make it very quick, and that would be kind of cool, kind of nice to see. And if they make it flex fuel where it can run on E85 or pump gasoline, that'll be really nice too. I'll be very curious how they integrate the ethanol sensor into the car. This one's flex fuel, as you know, or maybe you didn't know if you have been following along, but it is flex fuel, and it uses what's called inferred logic, which it reads the oxygen sensors, and it works fine. I've had zero trouble with it. It took me a minute to dial it in, but mainly because I'm very particular and wanted it perfect, and it is. I mean, I can stop and put half a tank of 93 in the car with about a little bit over a half a tank of E85 that's in it now, and within 5 or 10 minutes it'll have figured it out. Same thing, I can drain it empty and put E85 in it, and it figures that out. I've done it over and over and over, and it works really well. But having a sensor, just personally, I think would be better, because now it's reading it as soon as it hits the fuel rail, and there's no waiting for it to calculate and hoping that it's tuned right and all of those things. Historically, only Chevy used a sensor on their flex fuel vehicles. Ford and Dodge, from the factory, on their factory, you know, the Caravan, the Durango, the trucks that Ford has, they were inferred logic, or are inferred logic flex fuel. Chevy actually uses an ethanol sensor, and now it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, the new motors, they're kind of rating them on like a, getting kind of cute with the ethanol being alcohol, so they're giving them like a proof. So like, you know, whatever, I can't think of what the number is off the top of my head, but 160 proof would be E85, right? So we're kind of using the model numbers of the engine, and looking at the specs, it sounds like they have a fuel rail sensor for ethanol on those motors from the factory when you buy them. And I'm assuming if this number 7 car actually comes out, it's going to be the same way. It's going to have a flex fuel sensor on it. So it's going to be really interesting. Leave me some comments below and let me know what you guys think. I'm back at the shop, taking a look at the data log, and confirmed problem is fixed. I'll put a little picture of it up right here so you can kind of see. But we were up around 6,400 RPM, making, let me see, how much? I don't look at air charge, like 1900 air charge. It was about 54 degrees out, lower-ish humidity, but right at 21 pounds of boost, actually, because I guess it was cooler, a little bit cooler air, and the fuel pressure never dropped. I mean, commanded was 80, and I'm at 80.4. Fuel pump duty cycle is at 85%, so all of that is good to go. So, problem solved. Now the only thing left to do, put the car back together. So we'll get on that next. Seat delete bottom just easily pops back into place, I hope. And yep, that's a whole lot easier to put in than it is to take out. And next, all of that has to go back in here. All right, so we finally got the fuel system squared away, and it was a little more involved than I originally thought it would be. I'm glad I got to play with some new stuff, got some experience with things I haven't used before. If you're a channel member, you saw all of that. Well, we got it sorted out now. Bottom line, I would just do what I did and get it out of the way right from the get-go and not experiment a whole bunch. This works, and it works very, very well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's @Speedies_garage, as well as the website, www.speediesgarage.net, and hopefully I'll see you out there.